This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of First Horizon Bank.
Everyone has aspirations, and often we see them as experiences to be lived sometime down the road. But we say, why wait? Welcome to Bucket Listening, brought to you by First Horizon Bank, where we talk to people who have found a way every day to live their bucket life right now. Hi, I'm Tabitha Scott, a human dynamics expert and the host of this podcast. I hope you'll join me as I sit down with people from all walks of life to learn how their passions, insights, and persistence have helped them turn their bucket list into a beautiful life. This is Bucket Listening, presented by First Horizon.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston, and I'm happy you're on for the ride with us here today. We're going to have another great show, and this one I think is going to hit everybody in their pocketbook or their wallet one way or another. When we come back from break here in just a little while, we're going to have Brian Tanner on the line with me. He is this month's Business Alabama magazine featured guest. I learned about Brian after reading the September 2023 issue of Business Alabama, and our focus is going to be the changing world of commercial insurance. Essentially, what's going on out there? Why are my rates driving up so quickly? And he's had a quote in the magazine that the best way to get new business, he believes, is cold calls. And that's what jumped out at me. I've not met anybody that felt like cold calling was an effective way to get new business, and I'm eager to hear him talk about that. So if you're new to the show, let me give you a little bit of background of who we are and what we do. You're listening to What's Working, and I'm Cam Marston. The focus of this show is it's both a radio broadcast as well as a podcast, and we focus on workplace, workforce, and marketplace trends. Our goal is to find stories and ideas and people that can talk about the trends in such a way that you and I can grasp them, apply them, and make each of us a little bit better at whatever it is that we do. Again, welcome to the show. So happy to have you along for the ride. I can't remember if I have welcomed this new advertiser to the show or not. We had so many shows in inventory that we've been playing the inventory recently, and I forget what I've mentioned and not mentioned, but I want to welcome Seth Cherniak from Jeffrey Matthews to the show. If you're going to listen to the podcast version of the show, you'll hear Seth's advertisement, and I'm grateful to have him along for the ride. Seth, thank you very much. I hope your investment in the show yields great results for us. I also want to acknowledge a couple of new personalities to the show and let you know what they do. Brad Rogers is now the show editor, and he has been wonderful to work with. Really comes from a big background in radio and has advanced the sophistication of the show very quickly, and appreciate, Brad, everything that you've done. I also want to recognize Scotty B, Scott Basilata, who's working behind the scenes to generate new markets for us. He is legendary in the industry and has chosen to make a partnership with me and this show in our attempts to grow it. If you're a regular listener, you know we're now in Auburn. And believe it or not, we've picked up a destination, a broadcast in Montana. Of all places in the United States, a very wide spot in the road in Montana called KATL, Cattle. If you're listening on KATL in Montana, welcome. I hope you'll enjoy this show. We try to find content that will benefit you regardless of where you are on planet Earth. So to the listeners of KATL, thank you so much and welcome. We'll have more stations to announce here fairly soon. Back to the focus of the show today, commercial insurance. Post-pandemic, post-COVID has gotten to be some crazy things. For example, commercial insurance on your car continues to rise if you're buying that type of insurance for your fleet. And I want to know what new commercial products are available out there. particularly around the technology space. It seems as if the vulnerabilities from technology, from artificial intelligence, we had Rusty Pickering on the show not long ago talking about all kinds of check scams. I'm very curious of what the insurance world has done in reaction to that, as well as any other cyber liabilities out there. You got to think, with the extraordinary strides artificial intelligence is making, the bad guys are getting a hold of it and making some things very dangerous for us. I've seen a little bit of them on television as people can impersonate your, let's say, your grandmother's voice and call you and ask for money or something like that. But I'm very curious of what they're doing in the business-to-business world and what the insurance companies are doing to mitigate it and try to sleuth it out. So lots of good content today. We're going to get, as I said a moment ago, Brian Tanner on the show in a moment. He is the principal of the Birmingham office of Epic Insurance Brokers. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm on a Zoom call with a guy in Birmingham. This is Brian Tanner. He's one of the founding principals of the Birmingham office of Epic Insurance Brokers and Consultants. He was featured in the September 2023 issue of Business Alabama magazine, and he said a couple of things in that article that really caught my attention. And I wanted to talk, we will talk to him about these things, particularly, Brian, around cold calling, which I thought was a dead art. You seem to suggest otherwise. And, as I started thinking about this, I thought, well, there's a lot going on in the commercial insurance world. There's no better guy to lead me through it than my man, Brian Tanner. Brian, thank you so much for your time and welcome to What's Working.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about Epic Insurance and yourself, a little bit about your background. What has gotten you into this position of expertise?
So Epic Insurance Brokers is the 15th largest insurance brokerage firm in the country. What does that mean? We do a lot of deals. We have a lot of premium volume in the marketplace, and we're well situated from a volume perspective. It was founded in San Francisco, California back in 2007 with the idea of, if you treat people really well, you can build a really big firm, a really nice firm around that concept. That concept is turned into the 15th largest insurance brokerage firm in the country.
So what does it mean to treat people well? There's a lot of different definitions for that. And this show has a lot to do with how to treat people well. How do you describe it?
Yeah, so that's, it's interesting that basic concept has grown into this organization, or this organization has grown off of that basic concept. But we are big believers in wanting to put people in the position to succeed. We want the very best that any one individual can give. And depending on where they are in their life, depending on circumstance and things like that, it obviously, that has an influence over where are they in a position where they want to grow? Are they in a part of their life where they just kind of want to hang out for a little while because maybe they have young kids and they've got a lot of things happening at home that they got to deal with after they get off work? So it is all about wanting the best for your employee base.
So 2007 wasn't that long ago that Epic was begun comparatively. There's some insurance companies that seem to be centuries old and beyond. So 2007 is fairly recently. San Francisco is just outside the birthplace of all kinds of technology and new ideas. How is a young insurance company that's birthed in San Francisco? You said you want to treat people well. What else is different about Epic Insurance?
So we, as most folks talk about culture, they talk about they have a thriving culture, this type of culture, that type of culture. The challenge is a lot of businesses don't really live their culture. Epic names our culture. We call it epicness, and it is a big deal, and it's central to our stitching as a company, and we really live it day in and day out. And I think that does make a difference in how we operate versus how maybe some others operate.
Let's get into the commercial insurance products these days. I'm a small customer of a broker here locally for my office insurance and a couple of things, but it seems to me, I'm just going to jump into the deep end real quick. Artificial intelligence, much like conversations of culture on this show, continue to show up. And my suspicion is that the crooks out there are getting better and better at artificial intelligence, just like the people on the straight and narrow are getting better and better at it. What type of products are you guys pumping out to protect people from these devious people using this remarkable technology?
Oh man, the AI technology has changed so much just over the last 3 to 4 or 5 years, and really it's gotten a lot of publicity in the last year. There's one product in particular is like cyber insurance that these the bad actors, as they call them, as the industry calls them, the bad actors have gotten so good at scamming people. And they're getting really smooth. And so, cyber insurance is one of those products where that industry, that product segment is doing its best to answer that threat. Is it perfect? No, it never will be. But that is one of the ways that people are, the insurance business is trying to answer that threat.
Give me an example of scamming people. I can think of 1,000 ways to use that word. Is there a client experience you've had where they got scammed that we can relate to?
Yeah. So we have had several clients that have been scammed. What ends up happening is the bad actors get inside your system, and I don't pretend to know how that works, but they hang out inside your system and they watch information go by. And so they know, like, when a guy like me is out of town. And they also, over the course of time, watch and say, okay, well, Brian usually will give authority for a check up to $5,000 without his signature. And so they'll send an email from a vendor that maybe we do business with that says, hey, this is overdue or something like that. And then they'll say, well, and it'll come from my email address, but it won't be a perfect match. And so it is like ever so slight difference. The email is ever so slightly different than what my real email address would be. And if your accounting department's not paying attention, they'll fire $5,000 over there to this vendor and not even think about it.
How do you prevent this other than your accounting department microscoping each email that comes in?
You have to micromanage it to the nth degree.
Really?
That is the only way people are able to beat this system. And the bad actors aren't asking. Notice I said it was a very small amount of money. So if you have a big company, our clients are sending $5,000 checks out like it's candy.
Right.
So it's not even a big amount of money. They may, it may be $50,000, but that will be usually a small amount of money for that particular client. The days of them saying, I want millions and millions of dollars, those days are really over.
Right.
They're usually trying to catch you on like just the slightest slip up. And then that money, once it's gone, never to be seen again.
What determines the risk of your clients? Is it the number of checks they send per month, the number of payments they send per month, the number of people in the organization? How do you develop their risk profile?
So a lot of it has to do with their controls that they have in place on how do they validate and verify what's going out. One of the newest scams out there right now is you'll get a letter from one of your people that says, hey, please change the routing number or the banking instructions on these, because a lot of clients are doing direct deposit, or I'm trying to think of the word. It's not direct deposit, but they're sending money, wiring money directly to their vendors instead of sending checks. Yeah, ACH.
Look at me.
Yeah, you're going pro.
I'm on fire.
You're killing it. But and the letter will say, change these banking instructions. And then if you call the number on the letter,
oh no,
it'll be somebody who sounds
wow.
it sounds like they're legit. So you have to, like, if it's Brian W. Tanner Incorporated, you have to call whoever it is at my organization and say, hey, are y'all truly changing your banking instructions? And most of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah. No kidding. That's fascinating, scary and fascinating. And it sounds like with so much of this, these scam artists, that we're all catching up. They're cutting edge. We're following edge and try to create a comprehensive plan to catch up. We create a patch for it as a society, let's say, and then they figure out the newest way around it.
Yeah, and they're always a step ahead, it feels like. And we as an industry and a society are trying to think bigger and broader. But when your idea is stealing money and scamming people, it's those 2 degrees ahead of the others that's getting that money out of their hand.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you have to deal with that, and but I'm grateful to hear that there is a way to deal with that. Before we go to break, folks, I want to mention the podcast that I've been talking about real quick, and we'll come back with Brian in just a moment. But I want to put something on your radar. It's called Bucket Listening by First Horizon Bank. First Horizon Bank Bucket Listening podcast provides thought leadership through their client stories regarding their life endeavors and how they're living their best bucket life. They're really, I've listened to a number of them, very fascinating personal stories. It's like a master class. If you're familiar with that terminology, you see these things online. It's a master class with strong connection point to our current in-marketing campaign. And it's how the bankers, First Horizon bankers, allow these people who are interviewed to live a bucket life, not a bucket list towards the end of their life. And I want you to check it out. Bucket Listening. Find it anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll be right back with Brian Tanner. Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back at it with one of the most energetic and enthusiastic interviews I've had in a long time. Brian Tanner and I are on a Zoom call. He's located in Birmingham, Alabama. He's been 24 years in the insurance and risk management industry. In the year 2023, he graduated from University of Alabama in 1998, married 20 years, 4 kids. And I love this part of your bio, Brian. When he isn't working, he enjoys hanging out with his family, going to the lake, hunting with his kids, cycling, and racing cars. A guy in the risk business who embraces racing cars. Tell me a little bit about racing cars, and then let's get back into the topic.
All right. So, if you haven't ever raced a car, you should absolutely race a car. It is absolutely insane. You are trying to control something right on the edge of out of control. And the closer you get to the edge of out of control, but keep control of it, the faster you go, which is simply amazing. It's also a stress reliever like you've never seen.
No kidding.
It is amazing. We had a half day. We hosted our team to a half day race day at what we call it race day, epic race day at the Barber Motorsports Park here in Birmingham. And
Yeah.
I got bit by the bug. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I just raced 2 weeks ago at Barber in the SCCA race here, and I'm racing in the 24 Hours of Daytona, the HSR 24 Hours of Daytona in November. It's a 5-day event. It's just going to be awesome.
I don't think the bug bit you. I think it ate you alive.
I came home. It's so funny. I came home and my wife's like, "How was your day?" I was like, "It was great. Great. By the way, I signed up to be a race car driver." She's like, "Really?" I was like,
Say
"Yeah,
that again.
yeah, I did." And she's like, "Huh? How's that going to go?"
Father of 4 young children. Are you sure this is a good idea?
Yes, exactly. Something like that. And I was like, "Well, I'm going to give it a shot." She said, "Go get him, Tiger."
So a number of our listeners aren't in the Deep South. I want to get back into the subject matter real quick. Aren't in the Deep South. But I do want to talk about hurricane coverage and things of that nature. Is living here on the Gulf Coast, we always have an eye on the tropics. It's amazing how interested people become in storms coming off the northern part of Africa this time of year.
Yep.
Talk to me about hurricane coverage, and if you can you describe what I think is called combined loss ratio and how that matters?
Yeah, so those are two very different things. So hurricane coverage has everything to do with named storm and things like that. And if you notice this year, we've had a couple of storms already miss the Gulf Coast and end up in the Atlantic, which you'll see one over there every once in a while, but it's not normal that we see 2 or 3 over there already. So we obviously get very concerned about the ones coming into the Gulf of Mexico because the warmth of the Gulf of Mexico really intensifies the storm. And there is only one way out, and it's through some form of landmass, and most of it's the United States. So and they tend to kind of hook to the east there. But, you know, it's hurricane coverage is just, it's not typically called named storm coverage. And it provides insurance for large named storms. And
apparently it's going up. Well, not apparently. I've paid these things. The coverage is going up because these insurance companies, thank God for them, but their combined loss ratio has been not real good of past due to the economy, due to the returns of the stock market. Their investments, this is the way I understand it. Please correct me. I'm talking to the expert. Their investments have not kept up with inflation, and as a result, they're trying to make up the gap through increased premiums. Am I anywhere near the truth?
No, you're spot on with what's happening in the insurance market today. And so you think about insurance companies make money 2 ways: premiums that you pay, and investment returns that they invest their money. And their investments are regulated, so they can only go so crazy with their investments. And so if they're not getting the investment returns and they're having more claims than they're collecting in premium, something's got to give, or there won't be an insurance company there to support you when the event occurs. Yeah. So the combined loss ratio, their combines are running very, very hot right now. Very hot, which means they have to do some form of correction, and they are correcting it very quickly right now. We are in a hard market from a property perspective.
What about so premiums are going up? Relate this with that, and I cheated a little bit, called around, said I need some good questions. Let's talk about the car market, the price of insuring a car, which continues to go up as well, and it's something to do with the way car prices spiked during COVID.
So the auto insurance rates, have been going up. This is the 6th year auto insurance rates have been going up. And when you have 6 years of auto rate increases, that's called a stair-step market. And so the rates, they're not going up by like 40 or 50%. They're going up by 10, 12, 15%. Nobody likes to talk about rate increases. However, when it goes up by 10%, you can afford it. And keep in mind, I play in the commercial insurance space.
Yeah, I recognize that.
So I'm insuring fleets of vehicles, not outside of my own individual vehicles. And so we're in the 6th year of rate increases. However, the market is still operating in the red. So if the auto insurance market's operating in the red, but we're in the 6th year of rate increases, that means the legal business is outpacing the rate increase that the insurance markets are able to get. And I foresee that the auto market is going to continue to increase for some time because we've got to get ahead. Otherwise, at some point in time, you have a problem with auto insurance.
I have 4 children of driving age. Am I considered the owner of a fleet? Can I get a discounted service from you because of my 4 teenage drivers? And I tell you what, you're preaching to the choir on auto rates right here. My hands tremble when that bill comes in. I just set it on the counter and it takes a couple of drinks and a couple of weeks to look at it.
It's painful. It is painful. So I've got 4 kids, I've got triplet 15-year-olds who turned 16 in February. So yes. I've got an 18-year-old daughter. So I'm about to get the other 3 that will be licensed drivers here very soon. So I'm going to know how you feel.
Yes. And if you can figure out to name your fleet, I'd love the same process on my fleet. Let's talk about what stood out in this Business Alabama magazine interview that really caught my eye, because I thought the art of cold calling was over. Yet your magazine, I've started here so I could quote it. Here it reads, this is page 38 in the September issue. I've been doing this a long time, he says. And I've seen many people come into this business and fail because they have a better way of doing it. And the reality is that cold calling outperforms any other type, from my perspective, of pursuit, Tanner says. If you're good at it, you get more efficient at it and more proficient at it. Cold calling. I get cold calls from people that telling me my insurance is done and I need to renew this they very seldom get 2 or 3 words out before I'm off the line. Talk to me about cold calling, because there's somebody listening to this show right now going, yes. Talk to me.
So cold calling, it's not dead. I don't know why people say that. I've been invited to places, to different, parts of Epic to participate in their sales meetings. And when I talk about hey, how are you prospecting? How are you actively pursuing business? And it's never fails. It's always the guy with gray hair. And he stands up and he says, I only work by referral. Okay, fair enough. You've been doing this 35 years. You have a center of influence. You know people. You've been doing this forever. You wake up and close deals just because you got out of bed. What about the 24-year-old?
Right.
Who all his friends are in the exact same situation. They're scrapping and clawing, trying to get their piece of the world. And that person, that guy, that girl has no network. Yeah, you can call all your friends. You can call all your parents' friends. But after you make about 10 phone calls, what do you got left? And that is one reason we see a lot of failure in our business, I believe, because they go in and they have this better way of doing it. I'm going to do it this way or do it that way. Cold calling is not the only way you should do it, but I'll often ask a question, even ask to that guy in the gray hair. What do you do after you've made all your referral calls and you still have 7 hours left?
Yeah. So I want to pick up with this when we come back from break, because I think we're going to get a recipe for how to spend that moment on the phone. I'm telling you right now, Brian, I want to get a recipe for how to spend that moment on the phone when you think you have the buyer on the line. What do you say? How do you do it, et cetera, to keep them from hanging up? I'm on a Zoom call. Brian Tanner, he's a founding principal of the Birmingham office of Epic Insurance Brokers. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back right after this break.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence, but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. Brian Tanner's on the other side of a Zoom call with me. He's a founding principal in the Birmingham office of Epic Insurance Brokers. Works out of Birmingham, Alabama. We've been talking a little bit about a lot of things, and we're going to get into this cold calling conversation next. Brian, love your energy around cold calling. You talk to that gray-haired guy, and you look at the young person and say, all right, you got 7 more hours with your day. What do you do next? Talk to me about the structure of the call.
So it is very hard to structure a cold call because you have to be on your feet. My suggestion is always stand up.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting down, they can hear it. They know you're flat, and you don't play sports sitting down. You play them standing up. Secondly, what I do is when I call somebody, I've been doing this my whole career. At first, I'd be real sly, try to be slick. And then I realized, you know what? I'm just going to hit these people with a dose of honesty. My name is Brian Tanner. This is a cold call. I don't like doing them. You don't like getting them.
No kidding.
And right there, at that moment in time, usually they've either hung up or they are laughing so hard that they have no idea what to say. And I'm telling you, it's the most effective thing that I've ever done.
Oh, my goodness.
And I always have rebuttals to what you already know is coming. I've got a guy. I'm happy. All these things that people say, I just renewed. I'm in the insurance business, so therefore we renew on an annual basis. You got to have a comeback for all the rebuttals just programmed, but it can't be canned. People talk about having a canned statement. Those guys that you mentioned earlier that call you and, hey, they want to save you 15 minutes from, I'll save you 15%, 15 minutes or more. It's all canned. None of it's genuine. So if you're yourself and you're honest, I feel like people are more likely to talk to you. Is it like some secret sauce that they're going to be like, oh, it's a cold call. You were so honest with me. Thank you so much. You have to work your way into that. And you're going to have 30 seconds to get them laughing. If you can get them laughing, by the way, or being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. You have a much better chance of that at least setting an appointment.
No kidding. I absolutely love the candor, the over-the-top honesty within the first 10 seconds of a call. This is a cold call. I don't like doing them. You don't like getting them. And then what is the next line after that? I'm selling insurance?
No, well, I'll tell them. My name is Brian Tanner. I'm with Epic Insurance Brokers. I am an insurance broker. This is a cold call. You don't like getting them, and I don't like doing them.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
At that point in time, it is like they're sitting there going, are you serious?
Right. That's what I would do.
Yeah. And then they usually say, I'm happy, I'm this, I'm that. And they start giving you all the rebuttals.
Yeah. So what I was taught years ago is I always use the phrase, we've never met. When I'm leaving a voicemail of somebody, I'm trying to generate business. Hey, this is Cam Marston. You and I have never met. And it kind of disarms them a little bit. You and I have never met. I was given your name from so-and-so who encouraged me to call you. And when I give that, you and I have never met, it disarms them, not to the degree that yours does, but it disarms them a little bit of he's being honest. He's being genuine.
But it's the same concept. It's telling them, hey, it's like when you called me. That's when you called me. That's the exact same thing I heard on my voicemail, and I was like, let me call this guy back.
Yeah.
But you didn't try to be sly. You didn't try to be slick about what you're calling about. And I think that people appreciate. I think they appreciate the absolute candor and the absolute honesty.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, folks, there you go. Cold calling is not dead. Brian Tanner makes a living at it. He's really good at it. He's enthusiastic about it. And, I say put on your big boy pants and give it a try. Develop a script, and I use that term loosely, but develop an opening and an approach that'll catch that person on the other end of the phone off guard. And hey, if you try it, do this for me, to the people that are listening, do this for me. If you try something different and it works based on what Brian has told you, email us, email me, let me know. I'd love to give you a shout out on the show for trying something new. Brian, I sent you the list that I send all the guests, which is, hey, we've learned the guy professionally. He obviously knows what he's doing. Alec Harvey, you may recognize that name with Business Alabama magazine, is the one that connected the two of us. And he wouldn't have connected the two of us if Alec, didn't have confidence in you. So this is a way to get to know you a little bit differently. These people are interested. They're curious. Well, let's meet this guy differently. And we're going to jump around this list. Let's start with this one. What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
Not asking the question. I missed on a deal because I wanted to ask this guy a question so bad. And I don't know why. It was early in my career and I just didn't ask the question. And if I would have asked the question, that guy would have been a client of mine within 3 months.
What is the question?
Well, it's back then. I can't really remember what it was, but I remember sitting there and I wanted to ask this guy a question, and then I was scared to ask him. I was scared that I was going to offend him.
Yeah.
And what I learned from that event, that experience is now I ask just blatantly tough questions, and then I read the person on, are they telling me the truth? Are they answering the question of which I asked, or did they answer this question over here? Uh-huh. But I remember that I did not ask the question. I was like, oh man. So anyways, that is something that I learned from. And I ask every question that comes to my mind now.
I love it. That is a great answer. How about this one? It's Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. What are you most likely to be doing?
Depends on what time of the year. If it's the springtime, I'm sitting at a baseball field watching my son play baseball. If it's the summertime, I'm likely on my boat at the lake, pulling somebody on water skis or surfing or wakeboarding. And if it's during deer season, I'm sitting in a deer stand.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love it.
I love it too. I'm looking forward to the cool air, and getting out there on the deer stand is one of my favorite places to be in the world. I'm not an aggressive hunter. There's nothing better than a cigar on a deer stand. There's nothing worse for deer hunting than a cigar on a deer stand. But I sure love it. It tastes good out there. All right. Next one. You've just won the lottery for $500 million. What's the first thing you're going to buy?
First thing I'm doing is I'm going to tithe my church. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy me a Porsche 911.
That racing bug has bitten, hasn't it?
Man, the hottest car I've ever driven was a 2022 Porsche 911 Turbo. I think the thing could take flight. It's so fast.
Oh my gosh, you've got it bad, man. What is that? So you've just won the lottery for $500 million. What's the first organization you're donating money to?
Going to my church.
All to the church.
Yep, absolutely.
You could go to the church of the pontoon boat. You could go to the church of the lake house, but it's all going to the church.
It's going to go to my church, and then probably the United Way, and then go from there.
All right, couple more here. I'm enjoying this. You're a complex character. Your favorite vacation destination?
I don't have a favorite vacation destination because we don't ever go to the same place twice. We never go to the same place twice.
All right. So here's a version of that question. Of all the vacations you've taken, what was your favorite destination? Not the place you enjoy returning to the most, but what was your favorite destination?
I'm going to say Winter Park, Colorado. We went snow skiing, and it was the most amazing family vacation ever. It was awesome. It was like perfect.
Were you able to leave your kids out there on their own? Did you have to tether them to you, or were you able to let them run on those ski slopes?
No, we sent them to ski school. So I believe ski school is like one of the greatest inventions for parents, taking their younger kids in particular, when they're going snow skiing.
We've taken ours snow skiing one time. We had one that did not like it. She watched The Little Mermaid like 75 times that weekend, and it was by far the most expensive babysitter we've ever paid for to put this girl in front of The Little Mermaid at the resort while we were out skiing, and paying a ski instructor essentially to watch her. It's still painful.
Yeah, I totally understand. We have one who will only ski about half day, 3/4 of a day.
How can they find you, Brian?
You can find me at Epic Insurance Brokers, Brian.Tanner at epicbrokers.com, Brian.Tanner at epicbrokers.com.
Wonderful to talk with you, Brian. That was nothing but a joy. Take care, my friend. I wish you the best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back after this break with segment 5 and a recap of the show. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be right back.
This is Trey Langus with Transworld Business Advisors Gulf Coast. I work with business owners to confidentially sell their businesses from mom and pop size to large mergers and acquisitions. I've sold my business. I understand the transaction from both sides. Transworld has an extensive buyer database looking for quality businesses right now. If you're a business owner looking to transition out or want to discuss an exit strategy, let's talk. Again, I'm Trey Langus.
Well, that was fun. There's some interviews where you find yourself getting caught up in the energy of the guest, and suddenly the interview takes on a whole different, energy, I guess is the word. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Thank you for joining us. I was just on the line with Brian Tanner, Epic Insurance, brokers out of Birmingham, Alabama, and some great insights and fun insights. If you want to figure out how to contact him, his bio says he has expertise or ability to serve across the nation. And I will put his contact info in the podcast notes of this show. So go to whatsworkingcam.com. You'll find this show, and you'll find a link to his LinkedIn profile where you can reach out to him if you wish to do so. And I hope you will. He was generous to give me a lot of time. He was very well prepared and, like I said, full of energy, which is absolutely wonderful for an interview like this. Let me tell you what we got upcoming. Reason for you to, I hope, stick around and check us out in future shows. We're going to put a guy on the air here in a few weeks named Joe Calloway. I've known Joe for a while. He and I are kind of aware of one another. He's a speaker. He's a business consultant, expert, and really highly regarded by quite a few people. And he posted a photo not long ago on his, I think it was his LinkedIn page, of a coffee mug, which simply said the word begin on it. And his text around the post was, no reason not to get started on whatever it is. And I heard in conjunction with that, these things kind of happen at the same time. There was someone who told me every day we wake up and at the foot of our bed is sloth and fear. And what we have to do is get past sloth and fear every day and begin. And when I heard that quote, I saw Joe's post. I said, Joe, it's time to get you on the show. So we'll talk to Joe Calloway in a few weeks on how to begin, how to overcome sloth and fear, which I think plagues everybody. We're going to have an upcoming show on artificial intelligence and inventory control, how those two things are coming together. I think we could all spend the rest of our lives having shows about artificial intelligence and whatever the industry is, but we're going to do artificial intelligence and inventory control and are going through the Harbert School of Business at Auburn University in order to find our guest. I reached out to them. They've always provided great guests. I look forward to getting them on the air. I've got a guy that I had lunch with this past week who raises cattle, processes his own cattle, and sells it locally. And he's trying to grow the marketplace. And he's, he claims a superior product of meat, and the burger that I had with him was absolutely fantastic. And we're going to talk to him about why he's chosen to do this and what it's like getting into that business. There's so much going on here. And an architectural woodworking firm with the owner is out of the UK and somehow landed in a rare, strange place for a guy with his background and makes some of the most beautiful woodwork that I've ever seen. Anyway, more coming. Tune in again. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I thank you so much for joining us on the show. Find me on social media. I'm most active on LinkedIn. Look for Cam Marston. You can find my Facebook page. I put a bunch of stuff up there, including my weekly commentaries. And have a good week, everybody. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. As you likely know, this show originates as a radio show broadcast across the state of Alabama, and it continues to grow in both radio listeners and market. After it's formatted for radio, we then turn it into this podcast. Please share it with those you think would find it interesting, and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube page where you can leave messages and your thoughts and your comments, and I'll certainly get back in touch. Finally, if you're a fan of the show, please offer a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find my book called What Works on Amazon.com. In it, I highlight the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. Mind you, they're not the top 10 best episodes, they're the top 10 best ideas. Many times the same ideas are brought up again and again by different guests, and we dig into those ideas in such a way that they'll be easily applicable for your business. Simply go to Amazon and enter my name, and you'll find What Works as well as my other books. Chapter titles include How to Find a Niche, Innovation, Building Teams, and so forth. To learn more about the workshops and seminars I offer, go to cammarston.com. There you can view clips of my work, view workshop titles, view my reviews, case studies, customer lists. It's all there. If you'd like a free copy of one of the chapters of my book, enter your email address at the bottom of the homepage at cammarston.com. And from that site, you can email me directly. I always love to hear from you. You'll also find me on social media. Find Cam Marston on all the social media platforms, and you may need to enter the numeral 1. There's one other Cam Marston out there, and that numeral 1 distinguishes me from him from time to time. So if you're unsure if it's me or not, enter that numeral 1 after my name, and it should do the trick. On a more personal and less professional side, I record weekly commentaries that air across Alabama on Alabama Public Radio twice each day on Fridays called Keeping It Real. They've won statewide and national awards. They're simple observations on the world as it goes on around me, and they're only a few minutes long. They're a passion. You can find them on the same podcast app you're using to listen to this. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on this podcast or the radio show, reach out. I've worked hard to cultivate a specific listener, and I can tell you all about them, and I have many different options for helping you reach them. Thanks again for listening. We'll have another episode available soon.